The quantum drive engines of the ISV Hawking hummed with a low, almost sentient vibration that Captain Area Chen had learned to read like a heartbeat. After 17 years of deep space reconnaissance, she could tell something was wrong long before her sensors confirmed it. The massive world-ship of the Krell-Nax Imperium hung before her like a dying leviathan. Its once pristine biometallic hull now pulsed with grotesque, living discoloration, a canvas of biological corruption that defied every known law of cellular integrity. Aria's augmented eyes, enhanced with the latest neural interface optics, struggled to process the nightmare unfolding before her. "Computer," she spoke quietly, her voice steady despite the horror outside. "Run spectral analysis. Confirm contamination parameters." The ship's AI responded with clinical precision. Contamination spread, 99.8%. Genetic degradation, total. Biomass transformation, ongoing. Recommendation, immediate quarantine and zero-contact protocol. Aria's fingers danced across the holographic controls, capturing every microscopic detail. Something about this outbreak was different. In the past 18 months, she had witnessed the systematic collapse of 3 entire star systems. Each time, the pattern was the same. A virus that didn't just kill, but fundamentally rewrote genetic structures with a precision that suggested intelligence beyond any known pathogen. The communication logs from the Krell-Nax worldship scrolled past her secondary display. Fragmented transmissions revealed a nightmare of progressive horror. Initial reports spoke of a minor genetic irregularity detected in a deep space research outpost. Within hours, those communications devolved into screams, both literal and digital, as entire populations began to mutate. A sudden movement caught her eye. On the vast hull of the dying worldship, entire sections began to shift. Not break or tear, but flow like liquid metal infused with living tissue. Aria zoomed her visual feed, her breath catching in her throat. Billions of individual life forms were being simultaneously transformed, their genetic structures rewritten in real time. It wasn't destruction. It was something far more terrifying. "Marcus," she whispered, thinking of her brother, the xenobiologist who had been warning about this exact scenario for years. The comms crackled to life. An automated distress signal, barely coherent, transmitted in the complex linguistic pattern of the Krell-Nax. The translation algorithm worked frantically, resolving fragments of meaning. Not a virus. Something else. Cannot stop. Becoming. Aria's hand hovered over the emergency transmission button. Protocol demanded immediate quarantine. Every spacefaring civilization had strict instructions. Total isolation of any system showing these symptoms. But something deep in her gut, an instinct honed by years of exploration, told her that isolation was no longer an option. The worldship began to break apart, not through violent explosion, but through a controlled, almost deliberate cellular migration. It was as if the entire structure was evolving. "Computer," Aria commanded, her voice cutting through the growing tension. "Prepare full spectrum data package. Encrypt and transmit to primary research base. Authorization, Chen Omega 7. Her brother needed to see this. Humanity needed to understand. Outside the view screen, what was once a mighty civilization continued its horrifying transformation, a process that would soon threaten everything humanity had ever known. The containment lab was a symphony of controlled chaos. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez moved between holographic displays and sealed viral containment units, his movements a precise dance of scientific urgency. The sample before him, extracted from the fragments of the Krell-Nax worldship, was unlike anything in recorded xenobiological history. "This isn't a virus," he muttered, zooming in on the molecular structure. "It's a goddamn quantum algorithm." The primary display flickered with impossible data. Each time Marcus attempted to map the genetic sequence, it shifted. Not randomly, but with a deliberation that suggested something approaching consciousness. Quantum entanglement markers danced across the molecular structure, revealing complex patterns that defied every known principle of genetic science. A notification flashed. Top secret clearance from the Global Pandemic Response Council. Marcus knew what it meant. They wanted answers, and they wanted them now. Dr. Elena Kaminsky, his lead research partner, burst through the airlock. Her hazmat suit was pristine, but her eyes betrayed a mounting terror. Marcus, the preliminary global analysis is in. It's worse than we thought. The secondary display erupted with a cascade of data. Star systems, one by one, were going dark. The Centauri Confederation, the Zorn Collective, the Mercurial domains. Each civilization's genetic archives showed the same horrifying progression, a complete and total genetic rewrite that happened with mathematical precision. It's selecting, Marcus said, his voice barely a whisper. Look at the pattern. It's not randomly mutating. It's choosing. The viral structure before them was no mere pathogen. It moved with a purpose, targeting specific genetic markers with impossible accuracy. Some species collapsed entirely. Others underwent partial transformations. But the selection seemed deliberate, almost surgical. Elena pulled up a comparative genetic analysis. Every affected species shows the same anomaly. The virus, or whatever this is, targets specific quantum-level genetic markers. But humans, she trailed off. Marcus completed her thought. Humans show zero consistent targeting. Our genetic structure is somehow undefined to it. A priority communication cut through their analysis. Ambassador Richard Chen, Aria's father, and a senior diplomatic officer, appeared on the main screen. His face was a mask of controlled panic. "We're implementing total quarantine," he said. "Every space-faring nation is demanding answers. The Galactic Concordance is calling an emergency session. They want to know if this is a weapon, a natural phenomenon, or something else entirely." Marcus knew the real question hanging in the air. Was humanity next? The viral sample pulsed slightly in its containment unit. For a moment, just a fraction of a second, Marcus could have sworn it responded to his observation, as if it were aware, as if it were watching. "We're missing something," he said to Elena. "This isn't just a virus. It's a message." Outside the lab, the first reports of unexplained genetic anomalies were already starting to surface. Humanity stood on the precipice of something fundamental, a transformation that would redefine the very concept of life itself. The massive refugee ship dropped from quantum transit like a wounded beast, its biometallic hull rippling with impossible colors. Alice Nakamura watched from the command center of the Australian quarantine zone, her augmented eyes tracking every microscopic detail of the vessel's catastrophic descent. "Incoming transmission," the AI system announced. "Communication patterns are non-standard." The ship's exterior began to pulse, not with damage, but with a living, breathing metamorphosis that defied every known law of biological physics. Emergency protocols screamed across multiple communication bands. Contamination, mutation, transformation. "Seal all perimeters," Alice commanded, her voice cutting through the mounting chaos. "Quantum field generators to maximum. I want total containment." 53,000 refugees. That's what the initial scans showed. Survivors from the fallen Krelnax Imperium, carrying with them the very essence of the quantum virus that had decimated their civilization. The ship wasn't just a vessel anymore. It was a living crucible of genetic potential and terror. As the ship touched down in the specially constructed containment zone, the first mutations began. It started with subtle changes: a hand that shifted color, skin that rippled like liquid metal, biological structures that seemed to breathe and think independently of their hosts. The medical teams watched in horror and fascination as entire groups of refugees began to transform. But something unprecedented was happening. Not everyone was succumbing to total genetic collapse. Some individuals, seemingly random at first, began to stabilize. Their mutations slowed. Their genetic structures began to show signs of adaptation rather than destruction. Dr. Sarah Chen, the lead xenobiological researcher on site, worked frantically. These mutation patterns, She whispered into her communication link to Marcus Rodriguez, "They're not random. There's a selection process happening." The quantum virus moved through the refugee population like a living algorithm. Some bodies collapsed into undifferentiated biological matter. Others underwent radical transformations, becoming something neither human nor alien, and a select few seemed to reach a state of controlled mutation. 12 hours into the containment, the first truly unexpected event occurred. A young Krelnax refugee, no more than 20 in human years, suddenly stabilized. But it wasn't a simple cessation of mutation. Her body had fundamentally restructured itself, creating something entirely new. Biological systems that shouldn't exist began to form. Cellular structures that could process information at quantum levels. "We're observing something impossible," Sarah reported, her hands shaking slightly as she logged the data. "The virus isn't just destroying. It's evolving." Military containment teams prepared for total sterilization. Protocol demanded immediate elimination of any potential contamination. But Alice Nakamura saw something else in the data, a pattern, a potential. "Hold," she commanded, overriding the sterilization protocols. "We need to understand this." Outside, the containment zone pulsed with potential. Humanity stood at the precipice of its greatest challenge and its most profound transformation. The next 72 hours would determine everything. Dr. Sarah Nakamura's laboratory was a cathedral of controlled chaos. Holographic displays danced with impossible genetic sequences, each projection revealing layers of complexity that defied human understanding. 3 months had passed since the refugee ship's arrival, and what she was about to present would change everything. "It's not just resistance," she muttered, reviewing the final data set. "It's active engagement." The primary research council assembled in the secure, quantum-shielded conference room. Representatives from global scientific institutions, military leadership, and government agencies watched with a mixture of anticipation and barely contained fear. Admiral Elena Rodriguez, head of the Global Pandemic Response Committee, spoke first. "Dr. Nakamura, explain what we're seeing." Sarah took a deep breath. The presentation would challenge everything humanity understood about genetics, viral transmission, and the very nature of biological adaptation. "The virus doesn't attack human genetic structures," she began, bringing up a complex holographic model. "It communicates with them. Our DNA is responding to the viral algorithm like it's having a conversation." The genetic sequence before them was nothing short of miraculous. Where other species experienced total genetic collapse, human cellular structures were engaging in a complex quantum-level dialogue. Some cells would integrate viral markers, then selectively modify them. Others would reject the invasion entirely. But most fascinating was the third response, a form of controlled adaptation. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez, Sarah's primary research partner and Aria's brother, stepped forward. "We're looking at the first evidence of truly adaptive genetic integration in human history. The virus isn't just a threat, it's a catalyst." The military representatives tensed. Integration sounded dangerously close to infection. "We've identified 12 distinct mutation pathways," Sarah continued. "In each case, the human genetic structure doesn't just survive. It evolves. Enhanced neural connectivity, improved cellular regeneration, quantum-level information processing capabilities." Admiral Rodriguez's hand instinctively moved to the containment protocol activation switch, and the risks. Sarah's next slide showed the comprehensive risk assessment. Mortality rates for humans exposed to the virus, 0.03%. Adaptive mutation rates, 99.7%. "The real question," Marcus interjected, "is whether this is happening to us, or whether we're doing this to ourselves." A heated debate erupted. Military leadership saw a potential weapon. Scientific teams saw an evolutionary breakthrough. Political representatives saw an unprecedented threat to global stability. But Sarah saw something else entirely. A quantum-level communication. A message written in the most fundamental language of life itself. "We're not just surviving," she said quietly, her voice cutting through the arguments. "We're being invited to something bigger." Outside the conference room, the first group of deliberately infected test subjects began to show remarkable changes. Neural scans revealed expanded consciousness. Cellular structures demonstrated capabilities that bordered on the miraculous. Humanity stood at the edge of a transformation. And no one, not the scientists, not the military, not the politicians, fully understood what was coming next. The first warning came as a quantum pulse, a message that cut through deep space communication networks like a blade of pure information. Captain Aria Chen felt it before her ship's sensors could interpret it. Something was hunting humanity. 12 adapted humans stood around her on the bridge of the ISV Prometheus. They were no longer entirely human, but not alien either. Each bore subtle marks of the viral transformation. Eyes that shifted color with thought, skin that seemed to ripple with untapped potential, neural pathways that extended beyond traditional biological limits. "Incoming transmission," the ship's AI announced. Multiple alien civilizations broadcasting simultaneous threat vectors. The holographic display erupted with a constellation of threats. The remaining unified alien races had made their decision. Humanity, with its unprecedented viral adaptation, was now considered the greatest threat in galactic history. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez's voice cut through the tension. "They're afraid of what we've become." Aria watched the tactical displays. The alien armada approaching was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Ships that could reconfigure themselves, weapon systems that operated on quantum principles, an entire collective of civilizations united by a single purpose: total elimination of the human threat. But they didn't understand. The adapted humans were something entirely new. Their genetic structures weren't just resistant, they were revolutionary. Where traditional biological systems would break, they would bend. Where normal consciousness would shatter, they would reconfigure. "Incoming quantum-level attack," the AI warned, a weapon designed to unravel genetic structures at their most fundamental level. Sarah Nakamura stepped forward, her body already beginning to shift. "Let them try." The attack came as a wave of pure information, a genetic dissolution protocol that had destroyed countless civilizations. But as it washed over the Prometheus, something unprecedented happened. The human genetic structures didn't just resist. They absorbed, analyzed, transformed. Adaptive protocol engaged, the ship's AI reported, its voice taking on a quality that was no longer entirely artificial. Threat neutralized, analyzing, learning. Aria watched in awe as the quantum weapon was not just deflected, but integrated. Their ship's systems began to reconfigure, drawing information from the attack itself. Weapon systems emerged that defied known physical principles. Defensive capabilities that rewrote the fundamental understanding of protection. Marcus looked at the tactical display. "We're not just surviving," he said quietly. "We're evolving." The alien armada hesitated. Their most powerful weapon had not just failed, it had been turned against them. Outside the ship's quantum-shielded hull, space itself seemed to ripple with potential. Humanity was no longer just a species. They were becoming something else entirely, a living, adaptive system that could transform faster than any threat could conceptualize. "Prepare counter-protocol," Aria commanded. The universe watched, and for the first time, humanity was not just responding to a threat. They were defining it. The Galactic Concordance Chamber fell silent as Ambassador Richard Chen presented humanity's proposal. Holographic representations of 12 alien civilizations hung in the air, some physically present, others transmitted across impossible distances. "We're not asking for permission," Chen said, his voice calm and resolute. "We're offering a solution." Behind him, a living map of the galaxy pulsed with quantum-level data. Each point represented a civilization that had fallen to the viral threat. Trillions of lives reduced to genetic footnotes. But now, humanity offered something unprecedented, a method of controlled viral adaptation that could resurrect entire species. The Zorn Collective's representative, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline exostructure, spoke first. Your proposal is tantamount to genetic colonization. Chen's daughter, Captain Area Chen, stepped forward. Her body moved with a fluidity that was no longer entirely human, a living testament to the viral adaptation. We're not colonizing, we're healing. The story of their discovery was nothing short of miraculous. The quantum virus wasn't a weapon of destruction, but a complex information system, a cosmic repair mechanism that had been traveling through space for millennia. Humanity was the first species to understand its true purpose, not to destroy, but to evolve. Dr. Sarah Nakamura's research had revealed the virus's core algorithm. It was a genetic restoration protocol designed to preserve the fundamental essence of intelligent life while allowing for adaptive mutation. Where other civilizations saw an existential threat, humans saw opportunity. We can restore the genetic archives of fallen civilizations, Area explained, not as they were, but as they could be. The political implications were staggering. Entire species that had been reduced to genetic memory could be reborn, not as perfect copies, but as evolved versions of themselves. Adaptable, resilient, transformed. Marcus Rodriguez pulled up holographic projections showing successful adaptation protocols. Worlds that had been reduced to genetic wastelands were now showing signs of renewed life. Not resurrection, but renaissance. The alien representatives understood the implications. Humanity was no longer just another species. They had become something else entirely. Mediators of a cosmic genetic restoration project. The virus chose us. Marcus had discovered during his research, it wasn't random. We were prepared. Political debates erupted. Military leaders from various civilizations argued about potential threats. Scientific teams were overwhelmed by the possibilities. But beneath it all was a fundamental truth. Humanity had become something more than they had been. A quantum-level communication system. A living, adaptive species that could interface with the most fundamental information systems of life itself. Ambassador Chen's final words hung in the air. We're not asking to lead. We're offering to help every species become what they were meant to be. Outside the Concordance chamber, the galaxy itself seemed to pause, waiting, watching, as humanity stood on the precipice of the greatest transformation in known history. The battle for galactic survival didn't look like any conflict humanity had ever imagined. Space itself seemed to ripple as the combined fleet of resistant alien civilizations and adapted humans approached the viral origin point. Captain Area Chen stood on the bridge of the ISV Prometheus, her body now a living interface between biological potential and quantum consciousness. Incoming quantum disruption, the ship's AI announced. But it was more than an announcement. It was a living warning that pulsed through the neural networks of every adapted human. The origin point was nothing like anyone had expected, a massive quantum structure that defied traditional understanding of space and time. Part megastructure, part living algorithm, part cosmic information repository. It was the source of the viral transformation, the nexus of a millennia-old genetic restoration project. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez's voice cut through the tactical displays. It's not a weapon, he said, his words simultaneously transmitted and processed across multiple communication bands. It's a message. The first wave of attack came not with weapons, but with pure information. Quantum pulses that could unravel genetic structures, dissolve consciousness, rewrite fundamental molecular bonds. The alien fleet, a combination of 12 different civilizations, launched their most sophisticated assault. But humanity had become something else entirely. Where traditional defensive systems would collapse, the adapted humans absorbed, analyzed, transformed. Area watched as the quantum assault washed over their fleet. Individual ships began to change, their molecular structures reconfiguring in real time. Weapon systems emerged that defied known physical principles. Defensive capabilities that rewrote the fundamental understanding of protection. Adaptive protocol engaged, the collective consciousness announced. It was no longer just the ship's eye. It was something more. A living network of adapted humans, their consciousness spread across the fleet like a quantum neural web. Sarah Nakamura, interfacing directly with the ship's core systems, discovered the true nature of their conflict. The viral structure wasn't trying to destroy. It was trying to communicate, to complete a restoration process that had been ongoing for millennia. "We're the key," she transmitted to the collective consciousness. Not just survivors, translators. The battle became something beyond physical confrontation. It was a massive, galaxy-wide conversation happening at the quantum level. Each adapted human ship became a translation node, processing impossible amounts of information, bridging the gap between destruction and understanding. Alien fleet commanders watched in horror and fascination as human ships didn't just survive the assault. They evolved, transformed, began to interface directly with the massive quantum structure at the battle center. Marcus's final transmission cut through the chaos. "We're not fighting," he said. "We're listening." And for the first time, the universe began to hear. 50 years after the Great Transformation, humanity was no longer just a species. It was a living bridge between what had been and what could be. The quantum archive hung in space, a massive living structure that pulsed with the collected genetic potential of countless civilizations. Dr. Sarah Chen, granddaughter of the original researchers, stood at the heart of humanity's most profound achievement. We were never the endpoint. She spoke into the collective consciousness, her words simultaneously a transmission and a memory. We were the translators. The viral transformation had been more than a survival mechanism. It was a cosmic restoration project that had been waiting millennia for a species capable of understanding its true purpose. Humanity had not conquered the virus. They had completed it. Restored civilizations filled the galaxy, not as they once were, but as they could be. Entire species brought back from genetic memory, transformed, given a second chance at evolution. The Zorn Collective now existed as a network of energy-matter hybrid beings. The Krell-Nax had become a distributed consciousness that spanned entire star systems. And humans, they were something else entirely. No longer confined to a single biological form, humanity had become a living network, a quantum communication system that could preserve, translate, and evolve entire civilizations. Individual consciousness merged with collective potential. Physical bodies became fluid, adaptive interfaces. Captain Aria Rodriguez, named after the pioneers of the original transformation, oversaw the latest restoration project. Her body was a living quantum computer, her consciousness spread across multiple dimensional interfaces. We were chosen, Marcus Rodriguez's archived consciousness reminded her, not because we were the strongest, but because we were the most adaptable. The original virus, now understood as an ancient preservation mechanism, had searched countless millennia for a species that could understand its true purpose. Not destruction, not conquest, but preservation, evolution, transformation. Humanity had become the immune system of galactic consciousness. Each restored civilization added to the collective potential. Each genetic archive became a new possibility. The quantum structure that had once threatened to destroy now preserved the most fundamental essence of intelligent life. Sarah looked out across the living archive. Trillions of potential lives. Countless evolutionary paths. A living library of cosmic potential. We are not the end, she transmitted to the collective consciousness. We are the bridge. The galaxy breathed, listened, evolved, and humanity continued its greatest journey, not as conquerors, not as survivors, but as translators of the most fundamental language of existence itself.